Rachel V. Hill, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel V. Hill.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Well, this weekend didn't go exactly how a lot of people were hoping, with the Broncos falling to the Steelers, now 0-2 on the season, with a big matchup this weekend as they head down to Tampa Bay, stay on the East Coast for a few weeks. But the one main question everybody seems to have is, why the heck can the Broncos not get the run game going? And here to talk about it today, we're also going to be doing like a little Q&A, so put all your comments down, and we'll do this with this guy, James Palmer, in the building on a Tuesday. How are you, James?
Oh, I'm good. This is a live Q&A right now?
We got live Q&A. Let's do it.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's do this.
Who doesn't love it? Okay, well, first, let's start with the run game, because it's just, why can't the Broncos seem to figure it out? What are they missing?
I'm not sure how long this Q&A can go. I'm not sure how long we can have here, Rachel. Honestly, there's a couple of things. I mean, first off, as a play caller, you need to stay disciplined to the run, even when it's not there. And it's hard to do because obviously when you're throwing the football, what do you have? You have multiple options, right? The first read's not there. You have progressions to go through. You can still move the football in a lot of offensive play callers' minds. Running the football takes a lot of discipline, and sticking with it takes maybe even more. You look at what the Chargers are doing right now. We know Harbaugh wants to run the ball, and it hasn't been great early in some of these games. And what has he done? He's stuck with it. And J.K. Dobbins is popping these runs in the second half. And it's usually because you can wear some teams down. You can do some different things as an offensive group. The problem is there's no downfield threat, really, to any sense right now. And everybody's in the box. Everybody's tight. There's not a lot of room to work with things. And that plays a factor in it as well. So I know that Sean Payton has said that, Javante Williams probably vision-wise missed a couple of things, read-wise. I also know that there's rotations of a lot of players, and there's some inklings around the league that are like, well, you stick with certain guys and they get into a rhythm. You know what I mean? These are all different things we're just trying to figure out and see what they can do to get this run game going, because you need it to go to help Bo Nix. He shouldn't be throwing the football this many times as a rookie. If you ask Sean Payton, he probably doesn't want him, in all honesty, throwing the football as many times as he is. But that's the spot they're in right now. A run game needs to help out this rookie quarterback. This offensive line was built to run the football in their strengths. It's just been tough sledding to get it going. The Steelers stopped it early, and talking to those guys, they didn't really need to worry about it the rest of the game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of money in that offensive line, and I'm glad you mentioned it too, because obviously with Mike Winklynch now out for about a month, they're coming out and saying, what does this mean for the offensive line as you see the next man-up mentality for an O-line that really hasn't been able to 100% figure it out yet, but still is getting paid a lot of money here, James?
Yeah, and they had remarkable health last year, Rachel, right? And you just know that's not going to happen year in and year out. To play the same five pretty much for the duration of the season the way they did last year, it just wasn't going to happen again. And I think you and I talked about this during training camp, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Quinn Bailey went down, I said that might be one of the biggest injuries that happens to this team, and nobody's going to talk about it, because that affects your depth. A guy that can play four different spots on the offensive line, he probably would have been the guy that would have been the guy to come right in to that right tackle spot. You're going to lose offensive linemen. It's how your team is built depth-wise, and how your team is built to sustain some of that. I didn't think the offensive line was terrible against the Steelers. I think Sean's assessment of it was pretty accurate, saying they were inconsistent. I think as a whole, they didn't play terrible, and that's an unbelievable front. It literally changed the Falcons' entire game plan in week one of what they wanted to do with Kirk Cousins because of how good that front was. He was in the gun the entire time just because of TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. The group didn't play terrible. But now you're without some of that continuity that they're so used to up front, which is what you really kind of wanted to hang your hat on. Now, you kind of take a look and see if you start moving Bo Nix a little bit more. You start rolling him out and putting him out in space a little bit more, letting him use his legs. I think the RPO game is going to continue to be added in and grow throughout this offense as he continues to get more and more comfortable as a quarterback. It looks like that's something that they really want to use. And if you can do things like that with the RPO game, you can get that hesitation on a defensive line, right? You can find ways to kind of help you out, and they're going to have to find a variety of ways without McGlinchey.
Well, and really what's crazy too, let's just look at TJ Watt, right? An absolute stud, a beast. Everybody says that about him, says he might even possibly be better than his brother, and we never thought that was even going to be possible either. But in week 1, he was an absolute just a factor. This offensive line really did hold him off a little bit, coming at Bo Nix. I know they had technically the 1 sack, but really Bo got tripped up on that one.
I like TJ had like a sack with like a half a swat with his hand on like Bo's calf, and he went down. I was like rewatching it. I was like, either TJ's like the strongest man on the planet to knock somebody down with his hand on their calf, where like Bo was kind of tripping and moving out of the way. But I didn't think Mike did actually a terrible job against TJ.
No, I'm totally with you. And you obviously said you rewatched it. So did I, James. And I see the inconsistencies too. And it feels like this Broncos team overall is like one thing away from things going really right for this team, right? So it's, we're really down on the dumps right now. And I know Broncos country is frustrated, but there's also a lot of things where you're like, oh my gosh, if they would have just done this, like things would have opened up beautifully for them. Or if he would have just caught this pass, things would have opened up beautifully for it and they would have been able to move the ball. I felt like I was saying that time and time again after watching the game, or rewatching it on Monday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were some plays to be made. It was interesting going, Rachel, into the Steelers locker room after this game and talking to some guys I know over there. And this is kind of what happens when you play a rookie quarterback right away. Like there weren't a whole lot of different plays run in the eyes of the Steelers. They were like, we knew the playbook was relatively small. We think they did say, like I talked to a couple guys, I think Bo is a good quarterback. I think he can be a good quarterback. But when you're playing a guy this young into the league, it's not going to be very complex. We knew that there was always going to be an outlet for him, with whether it's right in front, on the other side of the defensive line, it's a guy that settles right in front of him, or a guy that's out wide in the flat, that it's going to be a short passing game, that they're not going to take a whole bunch of shots. If we can take away the run game early, we kind of know what's going to be there. That was the conversation I was having within the Steelers locker room. And so when you're limited in that sense, and like it's no slight to Bo, right? Like you're not going to have Sean Payton's elaborate, monstrous playbook at your disposal that he built over 16 years with Drew Brees, and just give all of that to your rookie quarterback. That's just not going to happen. But when you're out there, playing with that limited kind of portion of your playbook, guys got to get open. Guys got to break tackles. Guys got to help the quarterback. And you're not seeing a whole lot of separation from the skill guys when they're put in that situation. There was a couple of shots. I think Sean said that they'd like to have some more. And obviously they need to stretch the field a little bit further, because Pittsburgh just knew they weren't going deep. They just knew it. And they collapsed down and waited on it. And so when you have a defense as good as Pittsburgh, and let's be clear, the Broncos have faced two pretty good defenses. And by the end of the year, you're going to be going, wow, those are two really good defenses to face to start your season. Yep. You got to have some guys win some one-on-one battles, and that hasn't really happened a whole bunch. It's difficult sledding in the beginning. Another guy just got benched in Bryce Young, who was the number 1 overall pick a year ago. There's a lot going on for young quarterbacks, and the Broncos are trying to figure it out. What I do like, Rachel, honestly, like you can hear it in Sean's voice. Like there's something he's seeing in Bo Nix that is giving him some encouragement. I don't think he's panicking a whole bunch. I don't think Nix is panicking a whole bunch. He's not taking a ton of sacks. I think they want to use his legs a little bit more. There's some things I believe Sean is seeing that they're going to start tapping into more. And let's just hope this slow moving snowball starts to get moving a little bit quicker down the hill.
Let's hope we can build a snowman by at least the end of the year. All right, at least
exactly. Or at least the bottom part.
Come on.
Not even like the whole thing, just that butt on the bottom, just the lower half.
That's all we need. That's all we need. Also, just to look at all of the rookie quarterbacks right now that are playing, right? Everyone's talking about how none of them have scored a touchdown, a passing touchdown in the league. James, go 1, 2, 3 for me. If you list out who's played the best in your opinion out of the 3.
Jaden Daniels has played the best out of the 3. And I think it's kind of head and shoulders above the other 2. That was kind of the pick by a lot of people heading into the guys that were going to go out and play, that he was the one that probably showed the most during camp to the coaching staff that he was going to go out and be able to make plays. We see with Caleb Williams the immense talent, like the unbelievable arm talent, the athletic ability. It's, can you play within structure? He's dealing with a shaky offensive line. I mean, he really is. And I talking to people down in Houston, they thought they could have had 10 sacks this past week. They really did. And so that's something Bo's really not doing. But none of them are really lighting up the world, in all honesty. And that's why it's just so difficult. It really is. I mean, defenses don't show you anything during the season, during the preseason. And then they start, really kind of mixing things up and moving guys around, and it gets confusing. There's a lot to handle. And yeah, I would say Jaden Daniels is head and shoulders above the other two right now.
Agreed.
But I mean, I go back and look at CJ Stroud from a season ago. He was sacked 11 times in his first 2 starts. Like,
wow, I did not know that.
That's crazy, right? And then week 3, it snaps in. I think he sacked like 3 more times, like the rest of the year, it felt like. And so, like, that growth from him was so quick and so fast. It's not the norm. It's an outlier. Don't think that'll be Bo Nix within, week 3 to week 5 or something like that, like we saw with CJ Stroud. But you see it start happening with guys. You see them start getting better, but it's always so difficult right out of the jump if you're playing as a rookie.
No, totally. Also, you mentioned that you went in the locker room to the Steelers. Did you say a nice hello to our good old friend, Russell Wilson?
I did get a fist bump from Russ. I did.
Nice.
You been good, man? Yeah, I've been good. Family good, man? Yeah, we're good. I got a nice bump from Russ. So yeah, he was in there. He got a game ball, a petty ball, which is something very bizarre.
I love that we're calling it this, right?
I thought that's what the Steelers called it. I thought the Steelers called it a petty ball.
They did, but I'm like, this is going to be a new thing. I swear, for the rest of forever, there will be petty game balls given out.
I kind of dig it, kind of petty game ball, But yeah, I saw him. I saw Russ in there.
Nice.
And it was a happy group in there that they're winning games the way the Steelers think they can win games, which is great defense and great special teams and mistake-free football from the quarterback, which Fields did have a couple like ridiculous throws that if they were not called back penalty-wise, you'd be looking at it going like, Russ doesn't have a chance coming back on the field.
That one to Pickens,
on the run?
cannot believe how beautiful that ball was. I was like, you can't even be mad about it. Like, that's just stunning football right there.
It was perfect, yeah. I mean, Dan Orlovsky said it best, I think, on ESPN, where he was like, if that play was made by, like, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, the internet would have just been going insane. Like,
totally agree.
It would have been going nuts. Since it was Justin Fields, there's not the same reaction. It was an unbelievable play.
Yeah. I do feel like Justin Fields has to be looking at what's happening in Chicago and be like, so it was really me, guys. Same way people here are obviously like, so it was really Russ, everyone. Like, those two guys, I feel for them.
Yeah, you should feel for Justin. I mean, it's tough sledding, right? And it's hard early in your career, and finding your footing is difficult, and finding the match with your play caller is a work in progress. And it's on the quarterback, and it's on the play caller, and it's on the offensive staff to start figuring out how you go about it. But if you can't see the things early, and it's hard to when you're a young quarterback, and shaky offensive line play in front of you can cause problems. I will say this. I don't think Bo has a whole lot of negative plays. And I think that's really a positive in what's going on in these first 2 games, is there's not a ton of negative plays. Now, obviously, is he going to go further down the field? I think he has to. I was talking to one guy in the Steelers locker room that I know pretty well, and it was kind of like just off the cuff. And he was like, I don't know why you pick a quarterback 12th overall and you throw him 3-yard passes the entire game. Like, I mean, so the Steelers are kind of scratching their head a little bit at it. But it's going to be, put together eventually, and you would hope and think, and that's eventually what happens. But it's a process. It really is. But there are some encouraging signs that I'm told that the Broncos do see for sure.
Well, let's look ahead to this week. They traveled down to the East Coast. They go down to Tampa, hot, humid. Baker Mayfield, stunning. I mean, their defense too is just played outstanding as well. Obviously, getting that road win in Detroit. What worries you the most about Tampa?
It's funny. They're almost the exact opposite when you look at, the skill group. Really, I mean, Courtland Sutton is the one, but I would say both guys for Tampa are better than Courtland Sutton. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. Chris Godwin is outstanding, and he looks old, and I forget he's only still 28. He's got one of those faces where you're like, is Chris Godwin 34 years old? But no, he's
28.
I think he's still. Let me look this up. Let me just make sure I'm not wrong here.
I was going to say at least 33.
No, I think, come on. Let's see. Chris Godwin is 28 years old. Yeah.
Oh my, that's
From
how old I am.
Philadelphia, like your boy. But and then Mike Evans, I think, is the most underrated receiver in modern history, honestly. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's done things that nobody else has ever done at the receiver position, which is insane. It's just every single year is 1,000 or more receiving yards. It's the longest streak that we've ever seen. So that's just the complete opposite from what, Bo Nix
Broncos
is
have.
throwing to. Like
Yep.
these guys get open and they get open regularly. And when they're covered, they're open. And so I think, Pat Surtain can't cover everybody. And I think that's a difficult deal because when you finally have this offense that's kind of rolling the way that they're built, they got some good players and they got some good offensive linemen, some really good offensive linemen. And they're big in the trenches. So, I mean, yeah, the skill guys, that's a combination that's not common around the league. I mean, you could say maybe Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown maybe is kind of up there, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I mean, they're in that rare group where you got 2 ones that you're going to have to deal with as a defense.
It's going to be definitely a struggle. You're hoping to not start 0-3. 2 teams, since I don't even know how long, have made the playoffs after starting 0-3. Like, this is almost a do or die game for the Broncos if you have any hope of just trying to make the playoffs, which is what essentially you play with the season for. You know what I mean?
100%. What are those teams? Do you know?
It was the Houston Texans, and I just talked about it this morning. Let's see. Hold on. Give me 5 seconds, and I'll tell you.
Yeah, bring it up.
It was the Texans and the Steelers.
Okay.
The 2018 Texans and the 2013 Steelers.
Well, all
Since
Mike Tomlin
2002.
does is have winning seasons. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that's a team that actually has a lot more talent as a collective group than probably most people remember. There's still players from those Brady teams and the Brady team that won the Super Bowl on this roster. You have like a rejuvenated player in Baker Mayfield that's playing really, really well. I mean, this is a good complete football team. They got a couple of injuries in the secondary, but as a whole, I mean, this is a talented group.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so we'll get to some of the questions. We're going to do a little Q&A with James Palmer here.
Okay.
And this one's not technically a question, but I'm curious about your opinion, James. J. Will is not RB1. It's obvious. Is Javante Williams a running back number 1 in this league?
I'm frustrated by this because I thought he was. When I saw him back at camp and talking to guys in that staff and talking to his position coach, it was like the legs are back. Like he is back to the guy we saw as a rookie. And he can move and he can, catch the football and he has great vision and he has the ability to run over guys and break tackles. And we just haven't seen it yet. And sometimes these things take a moment too. Like, I mean, to trust things and mentally feel like you're entirely back. I want him to get more run, in all honesty, because he might be one of those guys that the more you get it, the more you go. But right now it's not looking like that's the case. I know we're 2 games in and I know he hasn't had a ton of carries. I know they're frustrated with a couple of reads that he made, but I do think as a whole, he is just from the eye test, he is moving better than he did a season ago. That is clearly true.
No, and I'm with you on that front too. It's like right now, it honestly feels like nobody on this team, let's stick with wide receivers and running backs. It feels like nobody would be a wide receiver number 1 or running back number 1 anywhere else in the NFL. But
it could be the case.
It feels like Javante is he's like that close, right? And I think mentally also he can sometimes get in his head a little bit and you just want to see him break through. So I hope that does happen.
I want to see him break through. Yeah.
I know. Okay. Going to back. There's a ton of comments just coming in.
Oh, wow.
Is Peyton Manning's rookie interception record safe?
I
don't know.
That's a lot of picks. I mean, that's 28. A lot. I think that's safe, honestly. I don't think anybody's going there. Because Bo has 4?
Yep.
I don't think the 4. I don't think that the picks continue. I really don't. I think 28 is as safe as can be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody I saw, I can't find the comment now. They asked about your route tree. How are you doing? Can you suit up for the Broncos next week?
I played receiver in high school. No big deal.
No way. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I ran good routes. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't the fastest receiver that we had. But I can move in the slot pretty good. I played the middle of the field well. But no, I don't think I would help this receiver group at all. Not at all.
My 40 times not good anymore.
No, it wasn't good in the first place, and it's not gotten better over time.
Okay, let's see this one. What is your confidence level that we can go into Tampa and get the win? Honesty is appreciated, Mr. Palmer.
Was that in there too?
Yeah.
Was that added
or no, you? I just added that.
Oh, you added that too? Okay, yeah, don't speak for the questioner. Percentage?
Yeah, we can go with percentage.
I think there's probably a 35% chance they win. 40% chance they win. Tampa's not bad. I mean, and you just look at what they did. I mean, Detroit is a Super Bowl contender, like a straight up Super Bowl contender. And you saw them go out there and play physical. You saw them go out there and put points on the board. They're a tough out, specifically there too, this time of year. Like, I've covered a number of games in that stadium in September. It's the absolute worst. Like, I bring 2 dress shirts because you just sweat through the first suit shirt, like during pregame stuff. And then you're just trying to stand next to like a fan or something. Like, it's a difficult place to play because of the heat and humidity this early actually in the season.
Yeah, I'm totally with you.
Not cannons, all that stuff. Yeah.
Not for me, man. If we go 0-3, is it time to dump high-paid players and look to 25?
Well, it takes 2 to tango. So, to make a trade happen, you're going to need somebody to pick up that player. Yep. I don't know how you would do that with a couple of the highest paid players on this team. I mean, I think like the more accurate answer is like, you're in this position because of Russell Wilson. You're in this position because of the dead money that you're having to orchestrate your cap and build your roster with. Like, you're doing the best you can with like $50 million less than everybody else has to work with. And it's just not easy. And so I think the point of this season is not to go that route, because it's actually kind of difficult with, like, they don't have anybody. I'm trying to think, like I don't know, maybe Garrett Bowles, like anybody that's like highly paid, that's towards the end of their contract. And so I think this year is less about that and more about like developing younger talent, like the guys that you're going to need down the road. But yeah, maybe like, I mean, a player that jumps out at me and I think they need him and he's playing awesome is Zach Allen. Like, Zach Allen is playing outstanding. I was talking to Chase Daniel about this the other day. Like, he watched the film and we talked. He's like, dude, he pops off the film every single play. That's a type of player that, like, hey, does anybody interested in a defensive end that can rush the quarterback tremendously? Yeah. They've been short on money and draft picks. That's why they're here. And so maybe if you can get, the picks back, you just need somebody that's going to want to make the move as well and has the cap space to deal with, adding those type of players.
A lot of people, it feels like it's 50-50 split between Broncos country of people loving the Pat Surtain deal and other people saying, like, why right now and like, why so much money? Now, obviously you saw the market, it just continues to go up. But did you think it was a good idea for the Broncos to do that?
Yeah, you lock up good players as early as you possibly can. I mean, it's what you do. The price is only going to go up. I mean, that's the way it works in the NFL. And good teams usually lock up players early. Like I mentioned Philly earlier with their 2 receivers, like getting a deal done with Javante Smith early for the price that they did is good business. His price tag was only going to go up. Pat's price tag was only going to go up. I mean, he is not one of the best corners in football. He's one of the best players period in football. Like, he's part of that group that are the best football players in the NFL, regardless of position. That number would only increase. Now, I understand like the thought process. It's kind of like, and this is some beliefs around the league with some general managers, like, I don't need the high priced corner when we're not a true contender. Like, those high priced corners shut down players in clutch situations. And they shut down number ones when we need to get a win. How valuable is that when we're not really that close right now? And I understand that. And I understand that thinking. But also, I think if you're trying to build a culture right now, like a strong culture that I think they're getting in that direction, I think you sense that during training camp, like the type of players that are here, you have to reward the best players on your team, or else what are you telling the rest of the locker room? Yeah. Like, this is a guy we drafted, a guy we developed that has turned into the best corner in football. And, we're not going to reward him or keep him. That spreads through a locker room. So I think that's important, and you get it done as early as possible.
Okay, this is not Bronco related at all, but I'm kind of nosy. The Jamar Chase stuff, the fact that he pulled out $50 million for an insurance policy, what the heck's going up there with the Bengals and Jamar Chase?
The Bengals are usually a very frugal franchise. They don't like to put guarantees past the first year. Joe Burrow is an exception. Star quarterbacks are an exception in everybody's mind in the NFL. So Joe's contract is an outlier. Obviously, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football. In my opinion, he's the second best quarterback in football. And so Jamar wants to be rewarded and compensated multiple years in advance with guarantees. His best friend is Justin Jefferson. They played together. They talk a lot.
Yeah.
They speak regularly. Justin Jefferson has the biggest contracts at the receiver position in the NFL.
Yeah.
And so he knows the guarantees that his buddy got. He knows the guarantees that CeeDee Lamb got. And now he can say and argue, like, my buddy Justin Jefferson's contract is not an outlier. There's two guys up there, right, that are getting paid this amount. So now this is the going rate for top wide receivers. And he is a top wide receiver. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. There's no bones about it. But the Cincinnati Bengals do not like to give those guarantees further into years. And they know if they do this for him, what ends up happening, Rachel? You break precedent. Now every agent on the planet knows this is not just a quarterback thing. This is a player thing. You guys do this. And so it is kind of a staring contest between the two sides. The Bengals tried to make a push, to my understanding, right before the start of the season. But it wasn't enough. And nothing's really going to happen until next offseason.
I was a little nosy on that front, and I'm glad you had the answers, James Palmer. Always a pleasure. Also, $50 million for insurance is just crazy, but
well,
I get
if you think about
it,
no, but think about it. Like the play that he got the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Sunday, where he got taken down by Trent McDuffie. I mean, that's he thought that was a hip drop tackle. Those are the tackles that can cause serious injury to your lower extremities. Hence the insurance policy.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, James, appreciate you as always. Look forward to our chats next Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Everybody hanging out with us in the comments, thank you so much. Thanks for the Q&As for James, of course, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful Tuesday, everybody. Bye.